everyone. I hope you all had a good week. This week I'm going to be talking about open calls and EPAs and ECCs and all that fun stuff for us actors. So I always get like a lot of different responses to these open calls. Some people say, oh, don't go on them, especially for EPAs because it's already been cast. Some say, oh, it's a good thing to go on because you end up actually meeting casting directors, and even though if you're most likely not going to book the role, at least you can have the chance to book the room and at least make a contact. So that's honestly why I continue to go to them. I try my best to go to one once a month because, as we all know, it is time consuming. It takes up your entire day. Sometimes you have to take off work because you don't know when you're going to be seen. You have to get up at 4 in the morning a lot of the time. Yeah, 4 in the morning. There was this one time I got up and I put my name on the list, and I put my name under a name that was already scratched out, which you cannot do. And I did it when, the spot was free. So it was number 10 that was crossed out, and then there was a free number, and I should have just put it under the free one, but I ended up putting it under that number 10. But of course, as the list filled up, I looked like that horrible person who just wrote their name in after somebody had crossed out, and I could have shown up later and just, added my name and stuff, seeing that opportunity. So I felt bad because I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is why we can't do this. And I was like, now I look like that person. So sometimes, and when you get up that early, it's just honest mistakes like that can happen, and it's just a part of it. And then that's always the trick too, is making sure that you're present and you're ready and you're warmed up after waiting all of that time. And the last one actually I went on to was they were looking for the same demographic for 2 different theater companies, and they were auditioning at the same time in the same location. So of course it's an open call, so you don't know if you're going to get seen at what, you don't know how many. I'm non-union, so you don't know how many union people are going to be there, how many non-union people are going to be there. So you sign up for both and just kind of see what happens. Well, sure enough, they were able to call most of the non-union people. So one person would get called in for one and then miss their spot for the next one, and then have to write down their name on the other list. And it was like everybody had their name on these 2 lists like 5 times because it was just people kept going in and going out. So it's just so much of that stuff happens. And the other funny thing too that I always get from a lot of people is people talk about like people just being absolutely like nasty at calls, like showing up early and writing down their friends on the list and stuff, which I don't think is cool at all. Get up like the rest of us, show up, put your name down, we all got to do it. And even if you do have work, like we have to do it. That's why you get up early, put your name on the list, do your morning job, whatever you got to do, and then come back, That's just how it goes. Sometimes you get seen and sometimes you don't, and that's just the gamble of it. But I think it's worth it to make a solid contact and at least to get in front of people, because that's how a lot of my friends, a lot of their the casting directors that they know, that's how they've done it. It's not because they've booked jobs with them, but because they've been seen by them a lot of the time. And it's also, I feel like, nice for them too, because they get to see your progression. So they get to see the first time you're in when you're super green and just out of college and you totally bomb it. I've done that a million times. And then they get to see what you are now after working, after having a lot more experience under your belt and seeing that progression, which I think is neat, and I think is forces casting directors to trust you and your work and who you are a lot more. But I'm lucky. I've never met any person at open calls that I thought was like, super, super mean or super rude. Like I've heard some people say stuff about just absolute nightmares of people trying to like sabotage you. I've never run into that. And maybe that's just me, like knock on wood, but every open call I've been to, everybody's been super supportive, super understanding. I haven't run into a single person that lied to me just to make sure that, I don't go in. Because this is the other thing. They don't know us. Like, nobody knows your work, unless, it is a small world, so you're probably going to run into people you know. but some random stranger isn't gonna just sabotage you at an open call, especially if everybody's non-union. You know, it's kind of silly to me. But I mean, I could be wrong. I'm sure there are people that are a bit more vicious. I'm just lucky that I have not run into that yet. Hopefully I never will run into that. So yeah, I think that's really cool. And actually, I read this quote. It's an African proverb, which I thought really kind of clicked in with this open call and EPA situation, and just the business in general, and kind of going back to the competition and feeling like you have to be better than everybody else and having to step on top of other people. And it just said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that that's really, really helpful. And I think that that's something that's really, really great to keep in mind, because, you know, we make a lot of connections and us actors can help each other a lot. And I have heard of instances where one actor can't do a part because they're actually in a different show, but they tell the casting director, hey, I know this person who is very similar to my type, and I think would be a great replacement for me in this role. How incredible is that? To have an actor refer somebody that they probably, you know, are in auditions with, in the waiting room with all the time for the same role, refer them to a casting director for a role that they got. I think that that's really incredible. And I think that there should be more stories like that, and that we should be helping each other more in that situation. Because that's it's just so easy to fall into that competition, and it's easy to follow into it, but it's not necessary, and it's harder, I think, to compete against somebody than to just learn from other people and work with them. So I thought that was really awesome and something to keep in mind for myself, and I think for a lot of us actors out there. So for my recipe this week, I had to bring out my instructions because I forgot how many ingredients were in it. It's very easy, but there's just a lot of prep work to do. So it's a quinoa bean chili. Really good. And for those that want a kick to it, there's a jar, you put a jar of salsa in it, but just make sure obviously that it's spicy salsa. That's what I do. I actually like the Trader Joe's salsa. It's really thin and it has a solid kick to it. So I use that. And you take 3 sweet potatoes, peel them, and then you cube them. And then just in a large pot, you chop up onions, saute them in olive oil and salt. Then you're going to add the sweet potatoes, and then this is where I always get mixed up. Oh yeah, you add the sweet potatoes, and then you add a little bit of cinnamon, cumin, what's the other one? Chipotle powder, garlic powder, and then you're gonna put a little bit of vegetable stock and salsa, and then water. And then after that, let that cook for maybe like 4 minutes. And then you're gonna turn the heat down a little bit, and then add black beans, a can of black beans, and then cover it for like 25 minutes. And then just until like the sweet potatoes, you can puncture them with a fork, just like if you're making mashed potatoes. And then you stir in cooked quinoa after that. So as you're doing a lot of this prep work, and as you know, you're probably chopping up the sweet potatoes, you can be cooking the quinoa at the same time. Save yourself a lot of prep time for this meal. And then after that, it's ready to go. And it's really good. I love it. I particularly like to make it in the winter, but it's a fine, light summer thing as well. So yeah, that's my 2 cents for the week. Thank you.